Great. Okay, well, let me just get you back. We are live to the world. There we go. Jakob Ihre FSF, thank you for joining me. An Emmy already, a BSC award for TV drama, the NFTS Sue Gibson Alumni Award, and of course now a BAFTA nomination for TV. This show literally exploded last year. A piece of work of such astonishing scale and authenticity, I think, is a real catchword for this. Amazing sensitivity, really deserves all the accolades you've got. So congratulations for that, and welcome to the BSC.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and good evening, and great to be part of this.
Now you was just telling me you're in Sweden, and you've been there for all of lockdown. How's that been for you?
Well, the industry hasn't really shut down here, strangely enough. Some people say it's more busy than ever before, and I don't know if you're all guinea pigs here. I mean, a lot of foreign shoots or kind of US commercials selling the product to us, if we are kind of the only ones who can touch a film camera in the world. So it's a bit odd, but it's good at the same time that people can do their job and can survive, so to speak. But I
think what's interesting, hopefully coming out of this, of communities that are working again, there's lots of talk, between our society and in our industry, really, about people, the lessons that we can learn from coming back. And people have to come back, have to use protocols and various, the guidelines that everyone is trying to establish. And if those actually work, how slow it might be, or how much more it might cost, or just how much more it costs in time. So it'd be interesting. It's a whole other chat, I think, to talk about how effective the Swedish industry is. But I think we all need to kind of come together and learn from that, so we can all come back safely, but come back and do some work. So yeah, we'll do that next time. So if you could just briefly give us an idea of. Before we get on to the amazing talk about Chernobyl, give us an idea of a potted history of you and your timeline. How did you get into all of this?
Well, I started actually doing reconstructions of explosions. I mean, I didn't do a reconstruction of Chernobyl, but I did when I was 19, 20. I was, for some odd reason, I was given the camera to do reconstructions for this new television channel in Sweden, and this was, when was this, 96 and 97, and I was reconstructing crime, and I was also reconstructing accidents. So if it was a farmer who had his tractor fallen over him, and he managed to call the ambulance, and we kind of had to reconstruct that the week after. So I did that for a long while, and in the end I applied for the National Film and Television School in Beaconsfield in England. So that was my kind of abrupt end to television, and I thought, let's not enter television anymore, and enter kind of the film world through National Film and Television School. So it's quite funny that it's not funny or tragic that it's a kind of a full circle, going back to kind of reconstructing the mother of all accidents, So that's how I started.
But so from Sweden, you went straight to, you didn't go to film school at all in Sweden? What was your training?
No, I didn't. I was somehow, I was so young at the time, and I guess they were using me in all kind of ways not to pay me too much salary. But I thought at least I tricked them somehow I asked them to send me to different workshops. And of course I was an avid reader of American Cinematographer, but there was all these advertisements for different master classes, workshops in England or America. So I told them, okay, you don't have to pay me, but don't give me a proper salary, but you can at least send me to these workshops. So I was kind of in America quite a lot during breaks, doing lighting workshops and Steadicam workshops and sound workshops. So I did that, and so I was self-taught in that way, and I never really assisted anyone either, unfortunately, maybe, but I for some reason I was lucky, and I got hold of this beta camera and started to shoot that way. And then of course I thought, let's let's make my parents happy and get a kind of a degree in this as well. I don't know, but yeah, so that's how it all started.
Right. Okay. So you went to the NFTS, and then and what did you do coming out of that? I mean, you went. You've done quite a lot of commercials, but a lot of
I started to do commercials, and I lived in London at the time, and it was an amazing place to be at, coming out fresh from a film school, that you have kind of nothing to lose. You can knock on doors and say, I'm a graduate from NFTS, and you want to see my show reel, and you had this U-matic tape or VHS tapes, and you were showing your kind of reel, and I was lucky to get on to do commercials, and I did a feature quite early, and of course I was very lucky to have kept in touch with the directors from the film school who started out doing the first kind of bigger projects or real personal projects. So it was a lot about that in continuing the work we had done at the school, which continued in our kind of professional life as well.
Mm. Now you'd worked with, had you worked with Johan Renck, the director, before Chernobyl? No,
I hadn't. We had tried to work 5-6 years earlier on a TV show, actually that was shot in Sweden. So we were talked on the phone, and we were about, but then something happened with the dates; it didn't work out. But we had been in touch for quite many years, but we had never really met. But for some reason, we had kept in touch after that, so it was. And I think he's worked with most Swedish DOPs of my generation and the generation above me, but we hadn't worked together before, and so it was a little bit out of the blue that we. So how did that come about then? It sounds like it seems like a dream coming together. But how did that come about? What was your first? How did you come by the scripts? Well, I had a film called Thelma, a European film, a Norwegian, French, Danish film called Thelma, which was premiering in New York. And I told all my friends in New York, please go and support this kind of art house European movie. And of course, I let Johan know about this. And the film I was shooting had just collapsed. I'd been in Budapest for 4 months in pre-production, but then it kind of collapsed, and I was all, I was kind of a free bird and a little bit depressed after that. 4 months of prep and then collapsing. Yeah, the actor didn't show up, but I guess that happens. But and that was a kind of an MGM studio movie, which anyway. But so I let him know about that and told all my friends about this, and he said, "Oh, by the way, we are looking for a DOP for this TV show I'm doing, and can you come to London in 3 days' time or so?" And so they, out of the blue, they sent me this script of 500 pages. Wow. And I was called, I asked if I want to come to London to meet up with the producers. So then you realizing that, they had come quite far already and they didn't have a DOP. And so that's just very interesting also in working with directors from the film school and friends. Often you are, your first choice doesn't really, that word doesn't exist. It's just a natural progress that you do films together. But then you're realizing, that you're not always the first choice. And I don't know, who is really the first choice. I don't know if the producer is even the first choice sometimes, or the director. But it was kind of not the last minute, but it was, I realized I had met many, other DOPs as well for this job. And I think HBO has a different kind of, they have to not certify everyone, but someone has to be kind of okayed by the studio. And sure. So this was it was your first TV, is that right? Yeah, so it was my first TV. Well, I'd done something for Channel 4 like 10 years ago, but otherwise it was my first TV thing, and which I was very worried about. Yeah, I guess. It's a bit of an unknown, I guess. But you said before that you kind of treated it as a film, like and I think some of the best TV work is kind of treated like that, especially those kind of short run series. They're treated as a very singular story. Yeah, it was a mini series of 5 parts, and that makes, and with one director, one team. And you're all stranded in one place, in one and so it felt very much like a feature film. I mean, it felt like just a, 500 pages instead of 120 pages, but it felt, and in the end, it didn't feel like a, it didn't feel like a feature. Also, somehow, it felt more like a document that we have to take care of this document and give it to, to our fellow, human beings. It felt, it was almost a religious undertaking somehow. I mean, it was something larger than, it was more like an installation almost. Yeah. To do this, and everyone kind of left their houses and apartments in different parts of the world to do this kind of very long project. And I mean, for me it was very long to what I've done earlier, so sure. So yeah,
I think that it being a document, I think is true, and I think that's the impression that you get, that authenticity. I mean, it is as close to documentary, I guess, as you could get. And that covers everything in terms of the way that it's kind of observed. It's very personal. The points of view are very personal. The eye lines are all very close, or not. That when that's played with, the coverage is very light. It's very stripped down. But also I think production design. So you work with Luke Hull, the production designer. I mean, and that's again the scale of it appears enormous. I mean, you're going to these small towns, and then but then the scale of the plant, and but the world that Luke and yourself and Johan came up with feels so complete. It feels like a whole universe where you could have almost wandered to any part of it, and it be real. That's where that authenticity. Authenticity sounds like it was a real watchword throughout it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's maybe have some stills of that also, but of course it's authentic. But it's authentic until a certain point. We do all this research, and we read and we talk and we visit all these places, but then somehow after that you forget about it, or you have it in your blood. But of course, when you express yourself, some of that comes out, 90% of that comes out. But then the missteps or your own enthusiasm comes out, and I don't know if, for example, there's a corridor in Kremlin that which we built. Strangely enough, we couldn't find a corridor, so we had to build it, even though we went scouting for weeks and weeks in Ukraine for a corridor. But at the end of that corridor is this big portrait of, I think, Ivan the Terrible, who's been just killed by his own son.
Oh, it's when he's dying in his arms. Is that right?
Yeah, I know exactly, which is very strong. And being authentic, that's not there in Kremlin. I mean, it's just, I think that was Johan's idea. Let's have it there, and it's like, I mean, we shot digital. If we have been really true to ourselves or to the project, we should have shot maybe on film or on on some old video format, and we should have spoken Russian or or the local language, Ukrainian or so there are many kind of missteps somehow, but you still buy them, or you still feel they're authentic, but it's.
But then that's the line that you tread with authenticity, isn't it? Is that we don't. Yeah. It's not a documentary, but because if it was, then yes, of course, that would be the reality. But it's as close to, and I think that really does it justice for the because, and what's at the heart of the story, apart from the terrible, the kind of the politic of it, but it's the humans at the heart of it, and I think that's the authenticity of that comes over, that is so heartfelt, and I think that's a credit to everyone, the script and so you how long did you said it was, you kind of brought on relatively late. How long, how much prep was that mean you got a short prep time?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of prep. So I mean, I guess I came on early. There was no one before me, so to speak. So I came on very early. In December we started, and we didn't shoot until mid-April. So It was a lot of prep and a lot of traveling and a lot of time to getting to know each other. And I got the entire crew, and in the end, it's once again, everyone had not sacrificed, but everyone could have taken on a normal job almost, I felt. But people felt that this has to be told. We had a German SFX supervisor, who was just amazing, who said, I could have done Homeland in Berlin, but I have to tell this story for my kids. Everyone was so dedicated, But back to pre-production, I mean, they were really clever, HBO and 60 Pictures, that to give us all this time, and also because it's a massive project, but also, you know, for us, for the team to get on and to, you know, to become one, so to speak. And no one, I think, had worked together before. I mean, earlier it was just everyone just was a fresh face. I mean, you know, even my crew was, you know, they were all new faces, and it just like a miracle. It just worked out really, really well in terms of.
Did you? I mean, yes. I mean, if I've ever done anything, I've always felt like I've really lucked out having to use local crew. Did you use? Was it local crew, or was it just elements that were all brought together?
It was a mix. I mean, my gaffer and first SC, they were Swedish. They were Swedish, but I hadn't worked with them before. I just heard, you know, a lot of great things about them. But the rest, of course, were mostly locals, and you know, we had, of course, a team from England or Germany or France. I mean, they were all, you know, lots of different crew members were flown in, and normally on other projects that had been an issue or not. I mean, there's always some issues on a shoot, but here you know, people were taken by the seriousness, but taken by the task about this document that they had to show the world. So it worked out, yeah, strangely enough, really well. But once again, the crew in Lithuania and in the Ukraine, they were just fantastic. And
it sounds like an amazing, the perfect EU project.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a sore subject.
And it was an EU project. I mean, it was kind of, I guess it was kind of partly, you know, funded by the EU, or not funded, but like all films are having some rebate.
So where did you shoot? You shot in where did you shoot?
In Lithuania, and that was one of the reason for that was, I guess, we had access to this twin plant to Chernobyl in Ignalina in Lithuania, which is still functioning plant.
Wow.
We're trying to, you know, to take down or to dismantle. So that's why I think the main reason why we were in Lithuania. But then, of course, we needed sometimes the grandeur or the empire of the Soviet Union, which wasn't really found in Lithuania. It became too small sometimes. So that's why we went to the Ukraine, and we even had our second unit went to Moscow for some shots as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're working with a sister plant to Chernobyl. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's
I know. And we were even doing shots inside the reactor of that sister plant. You know, it's really insane. You know, and
wow. I mean, there's authenticity for you.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
So I mean, everything from you know, from color and texture and you know, costumes. We've got lots of pictures, but the glasses that people wear, it's so evocative and feels so authentic. And a lot of that is existing, is it? It almost felt like there was almost no dressing that happened. You kind of would turn up in these places and they would look how they looked. But I'm sure it wasn't that, of course. Yeah. But all that stuff was kind of available to you.
Well, of course, they worked extremely hard, the costume department, to get hold of all this and to tweak them and to design them and to, you know, tint them correctly. Because by age, you know, through age, they're not real anymore. They don't look like they did 40 years ago or 30 years ago. So I don't think it was that easy. I think they had a really hard time doing it. But of course, at least they were in the right, you know, region to find the clothes.
Of course. They were incredible. So in terms of that look, I mean, Johan is a photographer, of course, as well as being a director and having done lots of very super visual work, a lot of promos and a lot of commercials. How was that relationship? How did that develop with Johan and then with choices about image making and then developing the look? There's three questions.
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer, but I guess we had a lot of time once again, you know, during the scout, sitting in the car together, you know, talking and doing U-turns and realizing that, you know, at first we thought, let's shoot on film and let's shoot anamorphic, let's enter the world of the Soviet Union through anamorphic Russian lenses even, and let's use a camera which should feel very heavy and detached. But then, you know, once we were, you know, 2 months later, we were still scouting, and we realized maybe we're doing the wrong thing here. We should focus, you know, like the script as well, on the characters. And so then we started to speak about spherical lenses and a lighter camera. And there were a lot of back and forth on how to do this. And if we had less pre-production time, I guess we would have gone for option 1. But then as we have time to test and what I felt, we never were scared of, at least I wasn't worried about not making a fool of myself, but of being wrong, so to speak. You know, the idea was to shoot with ultra primes, you know, these very clean lenses, not to put any kind of stamp on the film, not to, you know, to change anything, just to be honest with our images. But then, so that was a big idea when we want to go spherical, but almost by chance we realized that, oh, that's wrong. When I did some lens tests, that, you know, the older glass, which we didn't want to use at first, which we always talk badly about, was in the end the right thing for the project.
Well, I guess it starts doing some of the work for you, doesn't it? I mean, and there's kind of that idea of it being an authentic eye, but actually it can contribute in terms of, you know, maybe a shallower depth of field, or just some of the texture and the way that it responds. I guess is a useful tool. I guess that's what's lovely about using that kind of glass. What did you use in the end, and what camera was it?
I was not really, I was almost worried to tell HBO about it at first. I told the crew not to tell them that they're using these really old lenses, and, you know, and even Ari Berlin was kind of advising me not to use them because they were kind of about to fall apart. So there were some Cooke Pancros, but they were not rehoused Cooke Pancros.
Right.
And they were very different. And there was also one idea, just to use one set, just to use one camera. And I was scared a bit, or my concern was that TV shoots for me you always feel the second camera, you always feel the third camera, which is not placed where the actors are looking, or they are. So almost the original idea was to have one set of these, or maximum 2, but, you know, but we were wrong, you know, despite our, you know, combined experience, we were wrong. In the end, we had sometimes had 5 sets of these, you know.
Wow.
When we did, you know, long dialogue scenes with many people in the room. So it was just interesting how not wrong you were, but how, you know, how wrong, you know, how we adapted, you know, as we went along, and luckily we were kind of just ready when we started to shoot, even though we had all this time, you know. But then we kind of finally we had gone through that journey together on how this film should look like, and you know, from, you know, being not, I mean, like you said, he's a photographer, or he worked as a photographer, still photographer, done a lot of music videos as a director, but we talked about a lot about, of course, fashion or style, and we tried to get away from that, whatever, you know, style means. But we tried to be as careful to express ourselves too much. And, you know, we talked about working on a different depth of focus at, you know, T4 and you know, and 5.6. That was an idea. Of course, sometimes we landed at, you know, full open, but at least we wanted to get away from something which tells us that the film is being shot today. It should feel, you know, classical, I guess is a lack of a better word. But, and I hope time will, you know, when you look at this for 10 years, in 10 years time, it won't feel, you won't know when it was shot. So you know, basically we tried to stay away from depth of, you know, short depth of focus, stay away from flares as much as we could somehow, and we used you know, lenses which we felt were more normal, not too you know, lenses that are too expressive, and, you know, try to stay away from wide lenses. But of course it's a combination of all, but we try to be as low key as possible, and just to be calm and honest with the cinematography.
Well, I think that bears out. I mean, I think it's for people to judge, but I think that it bears out. I think it's a beautiful piece of work. In terms of the color and being, you know, kind of sticking with that authenticity, did you come up with a look beforehand with a colorist, and did you work with a DIT throughout? And was it how did that work? Well,
it's well, back to the. Well, of course, we had a great colorist, Jean-Clément Sauret, did the online, you know, the grading of this, and of course it was great. But while I'm kind of used the beta camera, going back to the Alexis, like working with this beta camera again, so you feel very in tune with it. And so once you're on a scout, when you can find your location, for example, the apartment of Legasov in Moscow, when you're there a couple of days before the actual shoot, you can be there with the camera, and you can, on set, you can play with this before you're on set, but you know, then doing pre-lighting, then you're actually playing with these different LUTs. And I can just play with myself, looking in the, you know, almost onboard monitor, and play and look for something that feels right. And what was interesting about that was, sorry, 1 second. Pooja, I'm on the phone. Pooja, I'm on the phone. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe I should have muted before. It's a family around here also.
That's okay. Life is going on. That's good.
Yeah, sorry. That in the end, it was very much like it reminded me of my documentary that I did back in 2001. I was in the Ukraine, in Odessa, and there we shot. I mean, I don't know if you have some stills of that later on, but that was a documentary we shot with these storm filters, which was these blue-green filters. And it was that was a stylized documentary, I guess. But in my memory, that was the reality for me. That was that blue-green, or that desaturated, was a bleach bypass film that we did at that time. That for me was a reality. So when we were looking through these LUTs and trying to create reality or authenticity, that LUT that we find in the camera reminded me of that storm filter I had on like more than 15 years ago, many years ago. And so, but while I was standing there, I almost forgotten about that storm filter. So I thought somehow that was a reality. That's how the Ukraine should look like, or the Soviet Union should look like. So there was an interesting process in that. But so we had this LUT that we kind of followed, and all the way until the coloring, we tried to, you know, be as, you know, follow that as much as we could. Of course, there was some, you know, we did an amazing job of a colorist, but that was our kind of mantra, so to speak.
It sounds like having a lot of, I mean, having lots of prep is always good, but there's always a point in prep when you're like, I want to turn over now. It's, you know, you sort of have enough of it, because you can start going in circles. But it's interesting to hear, you know, real prep where you get to develop those ideas and then change those ideas. You know, it's not just about the first idea that you have. I think that's really valuable, and to be given that opportunity sounds like it was an important, you know, a development for everyone. You've mentioned did you operate at all? You mentioned your crew, did you? And having multiple cameras.
That was also interesting. I mean, all my life I have operated myself, and we did that the first 2 weeks, and then suddenly we were in a spot which I hadn't been in before, where the Steadicam became the A camera, or kind of that was the master, and suddenly we were so behind. Of course, there's so much dialogue in the Chernobyl, and we were so much behind, and I felt I needed to go on the longer lens on the second camera. And for some reason, I've never been in that situation. When I've done Steadicam all my life, or when there's been a Steadicam shot, you know, as a DOP, you step aside, and there's just one camera rolling. But here we were rolling with these two cameras, and suddenly I felt that I'm not in control anymore. The director and producers, they see better than I do, because I'm just looking in my viewfinder. I don't know what the Steadicam operator is doing. Amazing Steadicam operator we had, who was also then, he became then the A camera operator, because we realized that night that, you know, we're going to be in this situation, you know, from now on quite a lot. You know, we're running out of time. And so let's bring in another operator. And for the first time in my life, I stood in a tent after 2 weeks. Kind of, as someone said, you can be a real DOP. Someone said. But
when you've got a coffee and a laser pointer, then you're a...
Exactly. but that was also like a miracle. I thought, my God, I'm going to lose the film. I'm not going to feel the film anymore if I'm not operating. But I never felt that way. And, you know, when there was a chance, I was operating, especially with crane shots, I always operated. But that was also very interesting, and a great learning curve, and something that I really, really, you know, enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real value to it when you, but a trust as well, and that's where have to trust your operators, because the first time I did that, I think there's I just thought, well, they're not going to be able to do what I do, and actually it's when you find those amazing talent that actually brings even more to it. I think that's when that's a real delight to find that. I think I've said that before. Luke Redgrave, I keep saying his name because he's great. He was one of my first operators. So you only operated a little bit. I mean, it's did you then, I wondered how because some of the scenes, because of that sort of fly on the wall kind of feel, and you said sometimes you would get maybe to 5 cameras. What were some of the scenes shot as live? Almost how much control was there?
No, but I mean with many cameras, for example, there's a kind of like around the conference room, and then you go back to Gorbachev, and you have 20 people around the table, and they have different lines, and
sure.
And then there are 4. So then, for example, there are 3 cameras pointing in the same direction at 3 different people. So it didn't feel like if I shot with one camera, the shots would have looked the same, so to speak.
Sure.
So I felt we were quite true, even though we had many cameras, we tried to be true to our kind of one camera look approach, so to speak.
Sure.
So
I guess then everyone has to get onto that wavelength, don't they? I guess if you're hand holding, then it's about framing and I guess if you've got all of those, then you can kind of then it's almost, that's what I mean as live. It's not like a TV studio, but you've got that control, you've got that tweaking control where you can normalize all the shots, I guess, in that sense. You mentioned your gaffer was Swedish, but you hadn't worked with them before.
No, we had worked on some commercials before,
right?
And Tobias Henriksson, and of course, amazing person and a great craftsman. So we had a good time.
So you did know them. How was that? Was it a scale that? So in terms of scale, how big? Was this the biggest thing that you had done up until that point?
Well, I was working on the biggest thing ever done before the actor didn't show up, and that was pretty large. But yes, I mean, for all of us, I think there were setups which were which was bigger than we had done before, for sure. And the amount of sets we had was just incredible.
So did you build? I mean, obviously you said about being on such authentic locations, but there was quite a lot of building as well.
Yeah, there was. I don't know how many. There was enormous number and amount of sets that were built, but once again, that was we had this production office, so kind of our office, the camera office, and the production design office, or the departments in the same building. So we were one unit almost. I spent more time in that production design office and in another building. So it was very open, and great dialogues were able to be held there.
How much influence did you, again with that question of authenticity, how much influence did you have over in the set design, or was the sort of the authenticity so strict that it wasn't necessarily camera friendly, if you know what I mean? It wasn't, it was, what was that, the balance between authenticity and being practical?
No, I mean, there was space. I mean, there was authentic spaces, like very cramped spaces to shoot in, but of course there were, we could remove walls, and it was treated like any other set. So it was like it was still a professional, workable sets, even though it looked, extremely cramped or dangerous. But what was quite amazing, which helped us and certainly helped the actors, that some sets there were exterior sets, but also like you'll see the reactor 4 in flames. That was an exterior set, but it was you can also actually enter the heart of the reactor and go through, and you're entering suddenly an interior set. Right. So So it was incredible builds that way. There was not just a facade and nothing on the outside, but it was a facade, and you could enter the corridors and almost come to the control room of Chernobyl. And so that was really authentic, and it felt almost like a not like a ride, not like a Disney ride, but it felt so amazing that it was like a 360 set.
Yes.
And that helped the actors, and it helped us in how to light it and to tell the story for sure.
Amazing. Yes, what I meant by that, kind of that idea of it being like a universe that's created that you can roam around in, and when that happens, it's just that's a real privilege, because it just feels like you're entering into a world. So VFX, just quickly, we'll start looking at some pictures, because we're kind of on your suggestion. Well, I asked you to, just to narrow it down, but we looked at more episode 2, just so we could sort of condense what we looked at. So we've got some pictures to look at. But just quickly, in terms of VFX, obviously as much as you had authentic locations and you did a lot of building, there was not everything existed. So the extent of VFX that you did on this project, was this the first time you did that amount, or was it in any way different, or how was it working with, it was DNEG that did it? How was that working relationship, and did that begin very early on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm repeating myself here, but yeah, everyone was on board from very early on, and when we started shooting, you knew each other very well, and you have talked through things a lot, and the main thing, it was 500 pages this time. It was not 120 pages where you had to talk to the dialogue with the VFX supervisor for maybe 10 scenes, but it was multiplied by 5. So, you know, I mean, it was of course, so in the end became a lot of VFX because it was such a long, shoot. And it was Mincy McFarlane who was the head of that, and he was, became a filmmaker, and like all of us in the end. And you didn't, in some shoots, the VFX supervisor can only show up the day before. And so of course you have some, there's some restraint, and there's some kind of, you wonder how will they, behave, and how, but here we had, there was nothing like that anymore. So it was very, open working environment, and free to express yourself. And, but once again, the pre-production helped us that there were no any big surprises, while I'm shooting, no one will tap me on my shoulder and say, "Oh, we have to bring in a blue screen." Everything has been very, well prepared, and
cool. Let's look at some pictures. I just got to grab some stuff out. Hang on a second. We've tried to prepare this earlier. Hang on a second. So this has got more and more glamorous as I've gone on, or not. Hang on, there we go. Let's grab these. Okay. Oh no, it's on the desktop. Brilliant. Okay. So what should we look at first? I mean, there's I've got pictures from the whole episode. What did you, was there anything in particular?
I mean, if you want to start at radioactivity light, if you want to talk about how that's been portrayed, if that could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 second. Let's pull up the right preview. This one. Right, 1 second. Here we go. Right. Oh. Oh, there you are. You went away. I was nearly on my own there. Right, okay. Let's just go big on this. Okay. There we go. Okay. This is the beginning of Ep 2, is it not? Is it? I believe it's...
Yes, it is. It is. And
so these are from various points across the whole series. So can you talk us through some of this?
So this just shows kind of how the radioactivity was kind of portrayed. It was a local technician, one of our sparks, who told us that they had, after the accident, it was even dangerous. It's even more dangerous to be out in the sun somehow. And some people thought that when the particles are being backlit, that's when you see the actual radioactivity, and that's not true. But it's you were not allowed to step out, but it was also certainly not step out when the sun is out and when the rays are out. So I heard that idea, and then on a scout in January, February in Kiev, I saw this enormous mural. I don't know if you want to look at that again, but that massive mural shows actually the atom, and you see the Soviet worker working with this friendly atom, as it was called, and here is light and sun. So I don't know. I mean, then we talked more about this, and in the end, we started to portray the danger or the visible threat as light somehow. So in that next shot, where you see that's the door towards the most kind of radioactive place on the planet, which is the roof of reactor 4. So that's the idea, was that, you know, it's even more overexposed. The more danger, the more overexposure. And here we were lucky, you know, that it was a sunny day, so we could, you know, continue with that.
That's interesting. It's kind of like the often with your kind of normal horror, is that it's about the encroaching darkness, isn't it, and the fear that people have of no light. But interesting that switching round of that and making it, you know, people being afraid of the light because that representing the approaching. The approaching radiation. I think that's it.
But all this was meant to be very subtle, and I don't think I did any big presentation of this idea to anyone. Of course, we talked about it lightly, but it was more for me and the gaffer and Tobias to know how to light the scene, and not just to light for, you know, day and night or whatever the movie we want to create, but also to know what is the character, the reactivity doing here. So here people are in the shade. They are, they're away from the reactivity. They are they're not in danger.
It gives you a timeline as well, right? Because
yes,
I guess
for sure.
as it kind of increases or gets worse, and
and that was,
which is really useful.
Yeah, it was really helpful. It made it easier to light it, so to speak, to know, So
did you how much in order did you shoot? Can you remember?
We shot. I mean, yes, it was much in order. It was. We started with Legasov in his apartment in Moscow. So it was fairly in order.
But in terms of episodes as well,
also, which are not part of the linear. Also, there's some stories in episode 4 which could take place anytime. So the script is not in order always. So it's. Right. It didn't matter that much, but
just in terms of managing that timeline as well, is sort of, and development, because obviously it's a, if you I've done stuff that's meant to be all in one night, or is almost an event.
Oh, like that, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think the story takes place during 2 years. I think it's 2 years from when Legasov, the main guy, wakes up until his body is found. And commit suicide. That's a 2-year period. And maybe that's an interesting story, that when they find horrible to say, but when they find the dead body of Legasov, he is lying in his kind of dark Moscow apartment, but we lit it very, very brightly with the sun and the rays coming in and overexposing him in a very kind of naturalistic way. But that was kind of cut out in this for other reasons. But so when the light, after the accident, you see Moscow, how Moscow wakes up, and here you can see that the light is kind of increasing. It's kind of almost, you should not make references to horror movies like The Fog, or it's quite maybe bad taste, but it's almost like when the fog enters, the fog comes with the monsters almost. Here the sun comes with the danger. But
the cat's giving it away there, which is not.
Yeah.
The cat's terrified, but I love that. I mean, just as a motif. I mean, it is really it's unconscious, but I think that's amazing, and it really gives that sense of it approaching or coming or changing, and that I think that really plays out.
So in the beginning of this take, once again, the light fades up. I mean, it's cut out a bit, but when the scene starts, it starts in darkness, and you see the sun hitting the curtain here in the mirror. And
how did you do that? I mean, I guess it varied, but what was the sort of methods of
most of
doing
the
that?
time
Was it
I had,
literally dimmers and?
yeah, well, yeah, on HMI we had these digital shutters, this metallic German called dark waders, I think they're called, that were used. And of course, all these LED lights helps that also. With all this
How much LED did you use?
Well, we had a lot of sky panels, I guess, and
Right.
once again, at first we almost thought let's only use tungsten and let's be in character with the Soviet Union and let's not introduce this. But we were wrong, I guess. We started we used LED lights also, even though it didn't feel right at the beginning. But then we were also, there were many scenes where we could use hard light, where we could use tungsten sources. Which we can look at later on. But here's also an example of, this is towards the end, how Sherbina, he's coughing and he's got cancer and he walks out and we kind of overexposed him here as he's kind of slowly, his body is kind of falling apart. And then there's a point here, how to light this scene. This is also, after 1 year, he's really sick here and we didn't want to light him yet strongly with the sun coming in. We just wanted to kind of foreboding effect of the sun hitting the wall and kind of getting closer to him, kind of in preparation for his death when the sun is kind of overexposing him. So I mean, I don't think anyone would kind of maybe feel that, but it just helped us and it made sense while we were doing this. And here you can also see how the light is increasing here on this. I don't know if you next shot there.
Yeah.
So, and I think we did that in post actually. Maybe
right.
I don't know. Maybe did in camera also. We kind of did an exposure change just to feel that. And this is also that light hitting his neck was something very important. That to feel that the sun is,
I mean, is he driving away from it? I don't know what point that comes.
Yeah, this is at the end. This is 5, and so the next time we'll see him, they find him in his apartment overexposed. So, but and this is also an example of, this is kind of where all the firefighters were after the accident. There was kind of radioactivity all over the place, and here we had these big reflectors.
I don't know if did you send this, because I think this might have been one of the stills that I pulled out that super hard light that they were all walking through and them leaving that shadow, kind of that. It struck me of shadows thing of that kind of Hiroshima, that kind of, that the blast and how the traces it leaves of people.
I mean, we talked a lot about the sun is different now after the explosion, and we talked about double shadows. Let's have more double shadows, and the sun should then. The elements have been tweaked. It's almost like many times it felt like a science fiction movie. It felt like we were doing something very surreal and otherworldly. So and
I can light with multiple shadows if ever.
But I don't know. But people might react to this, and here it goes again. That these are the dead bodies, and they are just filled with radioactivity and this was one way to light that, and that they are burning. So we used a lot of mirrors here, and once again we were lucky with the sun out. It was very sunny, and one idea we had that if it would be overcast for these big white shots, then we played a lot with strokes. That let's get that the atmosphere or the soft light should not be static; it should be fluctuating slightly. So there are some scenes where we lit with a soft source, but in that soft source there was something strobing. And of course it's subtle, but it should just feel that something is vibrating. And that worked also hand in hand with the sound, which is often, or the sound design and the soundtrack, which is often vibrating. There's a tremor to the, that's kind of the skill of the director of Johan Reng to be able to keep all this going in one direction, all this kind of ideas. And
well, it's all part of it, isn't it? It's weaving that tapestry of sound and vision. I think that's the genius of it. Jessie Buckley's character, who's kind of plays the heart of it.
Yeah, and then Johan Renke didn't have many kind of film references. There was a lot of kind of biblical references of Flemish paintings and which we talked about 4 months before we shot this. But when we shot this, that kind of reminded me of, let's create a halo around her stomach there to see that she's pregnant, but also they have some kind of, she could be not the mother of Jesus, but there's some religious about it, and all those kind of talk and ideas kind of on the spot you improvise and come to this, but the improvisation is based on all these kind of discussions you had. So
that's great. Wow, so amazing collaboration.
And here is just example of during this court trial, is 1 year after the accident. There's no sun, but as he comes to the end of it and the kind of the climax of the trial, we're having finally that 18K outside. We've been standing there waiting for 5 days. It's been kind of dimmed up and makes kind of notice of itself that it's out there still. It's the danger is still there.
Yeah. Was that on a shutter? So how did that digital shutter work? Is it like is it literally like an iris?
It's the same as the old shutters. It's the same like a louver, like a blinds, horizontal blinds that open. Yeah.
Oh, this is
seen this already.
Oh, this is a lighting again. That's the deserted classroom.
It's like montage sequences of the journey of the radioactivity that is entering the rooms.
Amazing. Well, incredible idea, that the journey of the light. I love that. Let's look at some more stuff. There's some. What one is this? This is just some behind the scenes stuff that I've got here. I'd like to just have a look at that, and then we can look at some pictures in the some stills from the this one. These are just some that I stole from somewhere. Hopefully they're useful. So this obviously it's the big fire, and this is on set. Obviously flying big lights in there. Obviously this was we've got that clip of the VFX work. Because obviously this is when the plant is on fire, which is is a huge VFX construction. But this is obviously a very simple way of doing that. Was this what was that up on there? That's obviously fairly.
We were all very excited. It was kind of the biggest crane in Northern Europe, I think, that was used to hold up those sky panels and 360s. Well, not that many in the end. Maybe we should have,
No, it's well, you don't need to. I mean, the output on those at nighttime is fairly significant, but there's no dressing on that either. It's pretty. There's no softs.
Maybe some diffusion on them, but no, nothing really.
Did you need any pattern running through those? Because if you've got all that smoke,
I mean, there was a mixer board operator who were. But once again, we had a pre-light day, 2 days before, and tried this out, and I think we even added some lights after that pre-lighting, and it was.
What did you have? What did you have in the hole there? That looks exactly.
There were a lot of dinos. We had a lot of dinos. So the idea was really to light the smoke with all these dinos, and to get more of our exposure from that than actually the sky panels itself.
Sure.
So I don't know if we were 50. Well, I don't know. I should check, but maybe 15 dinos and a lot of dinos in the background. Yeah. Doing the Atmos.
Just some monitors.
There are 2 cameras, and that's just maybe interesting to talk about as well quickly. We use these old Cook Pancros, and all the lenses are all different. The one is warm, one is cold, and I mean they're not at all calibrated as a set, so to speak. So when you present your image to the director and the people watching the monitors, one is warm, one is green. So quickly you become almost like we didn't have any live grade on the show. So quickly I almost become like a colorist on set as well, giving out numbers plus green and plus magenta and
right.
Kelvins.
Oh, I see.
And
You've
it
got
was like
some, just some of the little color
oh yeah, you can
corrections
see
in
it
there. Yeah,
there.
right. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And and it was almost, I mean, I don't know how the crew, the camera crew must have been, must hate me doing all that, but it was a good lesson also, because you're really concentrating at the image, which you always do, of course, also. But doing this, you really looked at how the image looked like, and you kind of expressed yourself what you think is wrong with the image by shouting out all these different color temperatures.
Yeah.
But
you could become very finely attuned to that kind of stuff, don't you?
yeah, and
this is just literally these are just some grabs out of that it's the HBO behind the scenes
yeah,
video. There's actual people shooting.
yeah, that's our second unit shooting actually. We had a brilliant
Right, okay.
second unit team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's because of that scale. It's so much stuff of texture and people just doing stuff, which is kind of gives it that authenticity, doesn't it? And it sometimes gets missed out in a drama because just main unit would never get to it. I'm a big fan of that kind of texture unit that will go out and just be scooping up just people inhabiting spaces and just going about their business, which I think is amazing. Adds a lot of depth to a story.
Sure.
So this was the tank set, I think, for the divers who have to go in and open the valve, which is set 2. I think that this was a full build, was it, or was this?
That was like there are 3. I think it was 3 sets in the end, but
another one. This one here.
Yeah, but this is the main, like a maze that we walked in, and that little house you see there, that was a set with water up to the neck almost.
Right.
And it was all lit by all these flashlights, and it was a difficult scene as there was no monster, you didn't see them, and it was invisible enemies. You don't know actually what they are running from, or we all thought that this scene will be cut out. It's never going to work. I don't know what you're telling me. It's darkness.
It's the Geiger counter, isn't it? I think for me, I mean, just of it kind of, and it increasing, and that is that kind of white noise is really.
And that's just once again a proof of when sound helps, the image or the cinematography again. It's all, Anyway, but so that was a very difficult scene to shoot.
And this is another. Well, that's it. I found that because I loved that. Again, I mean, I wasn't looking at the light journey for that necessarily, but I just the often it would go into those montages, which I guess were almost second unit, but they are just those portraits of the banal portraits of that are just empty, and there's just so many of those. It gets you through time and shows you those spaces. But
you're right. That's what I think. What really stands out with the show, or what I really think of visually, are those. Thanks to the editing and thanks to Johan Rengt, have to keep those shots last for a long while. Those portraits of people just staring or being numb, or the hell is going around, happening around them, but they are just dazed. And those shots and those portraits are there, and they last longer than the big wide shots of the epic builds and sets. It's in the end we have they have put more emphasis on the faces, and that's what,
absolutely
makes it.
Shall we look at your look folder? I think I've got that.
Yeah, that's a bit. I don't.
Hang on a sec. It's my very. I should be good at this by now, you would think. There we go.
I think the look folder is showing a little bit how we wanted to portray the Soviet Union. How we had many scenes in Moscow, especially at night, and how does it?
Yes.
At night?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, I think that this first shot is that one that you mentioned about your about the blue-green filter. Hang on a second.
Oh yeah, okay. Those are okay. Yeah, sorry. So that was the documentary called Odessa.
Right.
Which we shot.
Yeah, so that I can see that. I mean, it's got that. It's starting to head towards that that kind of obvious cold, but just if you pull back on that just desat and then green shadows, and it's really very evocative. So you kind of have this buried in your head.
Yeah, so this lot that we had was very much, you see this green wall here on this picture, it's the same green wall in the next shot when you see from the show, sorry, not this, sorry, after this one, from the film itself.
Oh, I see,
yeah, if you go ahead, you can see it. This is from the documentary, but if you go ahead.
Going ahead, hang on.
Here, so this is.
One of these, right, okay.
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah.
So it's the same, but it's in darkness here, but that's had the same green color. So the production design team did, locale did fantastically, correctly. But yeah, so here we had used that filter, 15 years prior to this, and then we have this LUT, which I find which has the same effect.
Should we go back to it? These are from your documentary, right? I mean,
that's from that documentary.
There's very religious tones in that, in terms of composition. I mean, it never feels needlessly close up. I mean, it kind of gets, when it gets into the landscape of people's faces, I think it's interesting. But for the balance of coverage between wides and closes never feels overdone. I think throughout the series, it feels there's plenty of space in it. But
then it's also interesting that in the shots ahead here, there's one shot coming up after this one. This is from a short film that Johan did also, like maybe 20 years ago, on a small phone, one of the first video phones, and it's got the same feel as Legazo, and it reminds me of the documentary, and I love the short film that he did, and this also kind of inspired us. So it's a full circle for him as well, or maybe it's just that the producers of Being Genius casting him as a director, that of course it was very in his
well, there's a real isolation, isn't there, in these shots? And I think there's a lot of those kind of looking frame in frames, and kind of people being smaller in the distance, or that isolation and quiet, and then it's all very thoughtful, which is really lovely.
Yeah, and I don't know why I showed this, but it's interesting when you have an idea of how you want to do things, you start to look for references that can give you yourself the blessing that you're doing the right thing somehow. Or if Melville, here is Melville, I don't know who shot it, Long, I think it's called. I think this is from Arm of the Shadows. And if he did it, you think, then you must then you're safe. So, but it's also a way to talk to Johan about this. So this is how we ended up doing that scene. This is from the film. But I don't think that picture, I just found it, yesterday, and I hadn't looked at it. Maybe not.
This one.
Yeah, maybe I looked at it 4 months before we shot the scene. So it's just in your head somehow. It's in your. So maybe it's just about tasting. I don't know if it's But
it's about absorbing that, isn't it? I think with reference, you can be slavish to it, and but what I like to do is you find lots of those kind of influences, but you pare it down, and it becomes less and less and less as you do that with agreement, I guess. With as you sort of refine it, but then and you're burying it all, like you say. You said before, is you kind of get it into your blood, and then you don't have to refer to it. You've absorbed the radiation of it. That's a terrible pun. Okay, but beautiful stuff. This is an art installation. It looks like the
this is Olafur Eliasson, a Icelandic Danish artist, and this is from London, actually, from the Tate, which I saw when it was out there. Which was when was that? 2008, something like that. But this just tells us about the magic realism that the film was also very much about. That of course it was horrors and reality, but it turns into something magic and realism, and of course it's horror at the same time. So it was just something. I mean, but our kind of fire or our sun was often more green, had a green tint to it to make it more scary or to make it more artificial. So, but
I love that. That sort of just the sort of people lying down. It's sort of it's like a death scene, isn't it? That's I've not seen that before. It's amazing.
So this is and this is also just a reference that we had in my folio of, once again, of the magic or of the presence of light, which has been fiddled with, or the light is not just white light. It's the light has been through a prisma now. We see the world differently, and And I don't think we have a shot like this with Prism, but it was something that we had in our, in our minds, and out of it came something, I think.
I mean, it's almost, it's quite a cool thing to have things that are aberrations or almost like mistakes, where if you've got a crack in a curtain that you didn't mean to have, or, that you didn't get a chance to or there's something where light is leaking. I think there's an authenticity to that, like this bit of light where it's just happened to do that. It's not a blacked out room. It's just something that gives it just that bit of almost like an error, but gives you that. It feels very real. I love that kind of stuff. It feels like you've just found it. But I love the prismatics. That's super interesting. Oh,
yeah. So this one is just shows
us. Your
your
lighting budget was reduced to this. This is
So I was, while we were reading about the Soviet Union, you kind of get the idea suddenly that there must have been a lot of hard bulbs. They couldn't have soft bulbs maybe it's more expensive with soft bulbs. And then it turned out that that was true. They didn't have any soft bulbs during the 80s. So that kind of gave us the idea to let's light this with a hard light. Let's try to embrace the hard light and the hard shadows whenever we can. So many of our practicals, they're not with a thin or Muslim lampshade, lampshade is often a hard one. So that also affected the look, or well, it's a bad word, I guess, but that also affected how we lit the scenes, that we wanted to go in this direction.
Sure. Like this.
And that just goes those hot shadows again.
Yeah, I mean, look, those colours are just amazing, aren't they? It's a real Kodachrome kind of colour. It's amazing. But that shadow is rock hard. Love that. Where were the references that you did work from? I mean, where did they? Where's this from? Can you remember?
I think this is from a photographer called Pinkasov, who was, funny enough, I mean, he's a Magnum photographer, and he was also the on-set photographer for Tarkovsky. And of course, Tarkovsky is in your head when you do this. As soon as you heard about this project, you think of Stalker and of Tarkovsky. And for a while, we thought we were very inspired by Andrei Rublev, and we wanted to do something anamorphic, but then we left that. But so this guy, I always been very kind of inspired by. And then it was just funny that he was also the on-set photographer for Tarkovsky. So, well, I think this is him. So this Pinkasov, who is, so this is in the end, this is from our film, and that's how we kind of thought Moscow would look like. But once again, if I would been really true, I would have done more, looked at photograph of Moscow of the 80s, but I looked at some, but it didn't tell me on how I should light the scene. But this shot, so this shot is a beautifully shot film, but that was an example of how we didn't want to do it. We knew there would be a lot of mixed sources in Moscow or in the streets of the Soviet Union, but we didn't want to make it exotic at the same time, and we didn't want to make it rich. And so maybe I shouldn't, I mean, this is beautifully shot, this one, but this is what we didn't want to do.
What you did, right.
Somehow. So that was a good reference also, not to get into that.
That's interesting. It had lots of anti-references. I like that.
So
this was a build, right?
Yeah, so this was a build, and that's really crazy that we had to build a corridor for lots of money, but we couldn't find it. And
that's sure.
Producers and everyone was so understanding, and so the only way to do this correctly is to build it. And this was a set that we, from the start on, we were sure this would be a location. And and this is an example of that painting that we discussed, that we are creating the corridors of Kremlin, but we are not being authentic in the end. We're having this, and I thought there would be more of an uproar or comment, this is not the painting which is in Kremlin. But I guess no one knows. Really.
I'm not sure many people would necessarily know, but but it's strong stuff. That had been made then, had it, for the, I guess.
Yeah, that was made for the, I think our amazing art director painted it herself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think.
Oh, hello. I've got that. Out of control.
And this is from that hospital, which is lit in a very kind of cool green, deserted look in the film, but this is how it actually looked like. But we didn't go there. And once again, I just found this picture yesterday in one of these old folders, and I realized, we were not authentic, we didn't.
But you made your own world, and I think, but it stemmed from that, and I think having your own, you've made your own language, which I think is
And this is just an example of the hard light, which is, but this is authentic, I guess, because this is a video footage of the real trial, and which is shot on U-matic, I guess, and
probably they would have had just big open face floods doing the
and that's what they had. So I think they got hold of some Fresnels from the 80s, you know, from in some old garages. They found lights that we actually lit the scene with.
Did you refer back to? I mean, there is some footage, isn't there, of Legasov, and how much of that did you look at? I mean, I guess production design.
No, there's a lot of footage of them, but no, you don't. But you looked at them, but you didn't look at the light as such. I mean, you didn't. Sure. Of course, in this case, we did, because you know, I mean, the production design, they created the world how it was in real life, including those light stands. But we never thought of mimicking anything. You know, there's a video footage of the roof of the soldiers running out on the roof, but we didn't light it in that way in the end. We lit it with this hard sun. So it's so this shows that hard light, but I guess the hard light is here motivated, and I hope movies will go back to hard light, but it doesn't have to be motivated by a hard source in frame. I hope we can one day get away from all these films which are lit by LED lights in the soft. I mean, let's go back to the 50s.
We can do that. We can do that.
Yeah.
Great.
So this is.
That's great. I just wanted to grab those. I don't know, we haven't done that yet, have we? Just to grab those couple of, or at least that one little video of just of the VFX takeover, which I wanted to, the core one. Let's see if we can make that work, because I think this is interesting here we go. Oh, it's not going to do that. Hang on a sec. Just in terms of the scale of some of the VFX work, which I think is, I mean, it's beautifully done. It's a pretty simple stuff, but it's just done so beautifully. Here we go. Let's go to big and full screen, and let's do that. See if we can get rid of.
Yeah, this is a crane shot. We are pulling back with a techno crane. And then the VFX have done some amazing work, and we have but also it's good to mention that the raw footage is not how it looked in our monitors. I think the monitors looked very much like we're seeing it. So right. So the grade hasn't been tweaked that much. Well, of course, been tweaked, but it's.
So the foreground, the foreground dressing there, that was that there for real, or is that a paint?
Yeah, it's a massive set. It's there for real. Right, it's enormous. And if you go through that door, there's a staircase. The entire kind of interior of the building is in the same building.
Right.
So it's
that you've got a butterfly hanging over that as well. That is a grip. And how high up was that? You got a techno up on the. Is that on a very high roof?
No, the roof was maybe 150. You can see it in the wide shot. Well,
oh, of course, that's the floor. That's the floor.
It's not. It's 150 centimeters.
There's a spark sitting down.
So you can reach up to it. Exactly.
Right, okay.
You can reach up to it with your hands.
Okay.
The first level there, the first floor.
Yeah.
But it's the larger techno crane.
Yeah, beautiful.
I operated on this one.
Cool. Let's just we'll just jump into a couple of bits of we can spin through some shots from that episode. Let's have a look, see if I can. I think I've still got these in a file, in a window. Oh, there's loads. These, I wanted to talk about these actually. This just a lot of the crane shots. They were kind of almost drone shots, but a lot of them are just static, which I really enjoyed. It's kind of using a crane or a drone as almost as a lock off, and I love that point of view. I mean, I saw an interview where the VFX supervisor talked about not doing anything that was impossible with VFX. You know, not trying to do two camera moves that were too incredible.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of drone units and amazing drone operators, but I guess they got quite unhappy with us, you know, because we added a lot of shake. I mean, if we didn't want to be static and we want to create some movement, often we added, you know, shake to them to make it more rustic and.
Or it would be like this, and there would just be the very slightest of movement, just so you've got a sort of develop between these kind of lock-off montages.
There's all kinds of techniques, but in the end, we were very worried that, you know, we were worried of using the drones. You know, we feel it's such a modern tool. So just like you said, sometimes it's very static or it's very shaky, but it's very seldom it's used. And then
no, it doesn't. I think that's when drones can get overused, when it turns into it's all about the drone, and you've got rotates, and it's all kind of doing a bit too much trickery. Yeah. But I love the fact that it's kind of used almost as a lock off. I do enjoy those. Again, this is stepping through. I was looking at just how the sun was playing. It's just very subtle, and again, because they're far away, aren't they? They're just working out the accident has happened from 300 kilometers away. So that's just sort of interesting when you talk about the story of the light. I think it's interesting in this. But just the, you know, I think the dressing is just fantastic.
This is a real place, you know. I mean, it's very well dressed, but some of the stuff is actually for real, you know. It's
I mean, just down to it's the cut, everything. It's so it feels great. I was going to mention the ADs because the crowd scenes, there was a lot of stuff, you know, when the people are being put onto buses and whole scenes of the evacuation, and the extras were all locals, I'm guessing. Were they all?
They were all locals, and you know, the senior ones have been part of the Soviet Union, and some of them have been part of what actually happened. And you know, there was a man who came up to me in tears saying, you know, I was a young man, I knew what happened, you know. I've been part of this, and now I'm reliving this again, and you know, you better do justice to this. So it was very strong, and the AD was a French AD who had his Lithuanian local team who just did amazing work.
I know David, he's a hero.
Incredible.
Brilliant. Just again, I mean, I'm pulling these out because they're kind of, it strikes me about the POV and about our proximity to that. And we're kind of, you know, these are thoughtful shots of Legasov, but we are absolutely there with him. And I just, you know, I love that proximity.
But it was quite interesting in that profile shot. At the same time as we took that profile shot, we also had, I mean, it was almost quite obscene in some way. There were 3 cameras running at the same time. One in profile, one on his hands, looking at his papers, and one slightly frontal. And I almost thought, you know, oh my God, you know, what are we doing here? I mean, this is.
Have you worked like that before?
No, I haven't. But and I thought, you know, but in the end, the actor loved it. He thought it was great to do like this. He doesn't have to do this 3 times. But once again, it went against what I'm used to, or maybe what Johan is used to, at least on other projects. But in the end, you were wrong. You know, it works. You know, and
I mean, and you didn't feel at any point that you were sort of compromising your light necessarily, because if you, I mean, if it's lit,
you don't.
In that real practical sense, it feels like it's, you know, the light is where it is, right? I read another thing, not watching VFX breakdowns, but this was a real helicopter, but this was a full color paint. Is that right? The helicopter is actually.
I think this one is real. But there's another
really?
helicopter which turned out white, which they just hand painted or digitally painted.
Yeah.
Maybe it was this. I don't think it was this one. Sorry if I'm wrong,
Okay.
but there was another one which they did a same amazing job.
Right. You did send me a clip of this, but this was this helicopter interior that was lit with LEDs that were strobing.
Yeah, so we're pretending that we are up in the air here, and here we are on actual air base in the Ukraine, and they're in war, so we had to be very light on our kind of infrastructure around the helicopter because they had to lift off if something happens, and so we are very much in character, and even our extra here is falling asleep after some podcast lunch, I think, but on the right. But here, we're having the strobe here. I mean, we're having the rotor blades turning, and we use the LED strobes,
Right.
which I hadn't done before. So it was quite interesting to make that strobing effect with that. And this is all CGI, I think.
Again, this feels like a location that was
It's
like
location.
nothing had changed since 1986. It looked like.
Yeah, it's location.
Some beautiful stuff. Oh, this is the one that was white.
Yeah, this one is white. Yeah.
Smoking seems to be was an occupation. It seems to be.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a day for nights. That's the day for dusk scene. That previous one. That's all in the day.
Right.
But we were lucky with the weather, I guess, and lucky to have these practicals, selling the idea of dusk.
Yeah. And this is that hard light scene when he comes back with the big readout off the front of the truck. Mark, lovely man. He's in Rebecca.
Oh wow.
And this is, I read, there was another, I've been scouring the internet for behind the scenes. This was a turning point for Legasov when he lies. And I read there was an interview with Jared where he talks about that was the point where he became complicit, which I think is really interesting.
Oh, you're right.
Because it's the first time somebody asked him if they should be worried, and he says no.
Yeah, you're right.
That's interesting.
Sounds like today.
Yes, quite. Yes, absolutely.
And that's
these were go on. These were paints. With obviously the background is you couldn't arrange for this one big smoke machine. But you had to paint a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But otherwise, there's a lot of effects here. But this is Ignalina, and this is the twin plant to Chernobyl.
Right.
So
all of this is real, is it? I guess, and then
there was a building. Yeah, it was. I don't know. Maybe they've done some tweaks to it, but it was a place. I mean, with these enormous 2 reactors. I think it was. Yeah.
This the picture in the frame in frame, just lovely stuff. Even more, and then again, there's some. I love this. I think that when now you've described your light journey, the fact he kind of sits back into this when he finds out the truth. I think it hits him.
Yeah, and the sun fades down here as well.
In vision. Brilliant.
Vision.
I love that. And this is just the bus is coming to evacuate.
Yeah.
So it just felt the world building was amazing in this. I mean, obviously there's some paint going on in there, but this was a shot there is a reverse of this man.
Yeah.
Like, it felt so like this was a real documentary shot. It felt like a found shot of a man being left behind, or refusing to move, perhaps, or it felt like something that you'd see in a documentary. So that level of authenticity, I just loved that.
And it was almost like shooting this was almost like a live event. I mean, there was so many extras, 400 extras, and we had 3 drones in the air, and there were 4 camera units, I think, and
Wow.
it was very rehearsed. But it reminded me of, I mean, of a live show, of something live.
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And once again, it's a brilliant, AD department.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's amazing. And costume. I mean, unless they all came in their own costume, amazing. Was this real, or did you shoot that?
No, we had to shoot it. In the end, we didn't have the copyright to shoot it, but it's this is exactly how it was, and we got hold of the same camera, even camera from '86 to do this, and
great.
So yeah.
Yeah, see, I don't have the light journey in that, but I did love that shot.
Yeah.
It's all these deserted, these little vignettes of life that's moved on, and just it's haunting stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, there you are. That's that.
And yeah, this is a real set, actually. It's not.
Oh, really?
It was there. So
that's a super Soviet interior decoration.
Yeah. So this is outside Vilnius. So we are.
Right. How long did you shoot for in the end? Did you say that? How long was the shoot?
Well, 110 days, I think it was.
Wow.
12-hour days. I mean,
wow.
American days, 5 days a week.
Yeah, yeah.
And mostly with 2 cameras.
This, I'm pretty sure there's a shot of Legasov from footage.
Yeah,
I've seen there is.
Yeah, it's
with his little hat. I think that this plays this episode out. I think when because it goes out on their torches dying. I mean, this was literally lit with more or less lit with the torches, right?
Yeah, I mean, the water hitting the water is actually our own light from behind the water. In order to get some reflection, you don't get it front. You have to get some light from behind. So, but otherwise, a lot of torches, and the torches were on LED lights, on LED dimmers that we were controlling. Very expensive torches, and and in the end, they have this hand cranked.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. That's the end of episode 2. Amazing. Well, I just wanted to. There's a couple of really quick questions. There we go. There's some. Somebody wants to know the name of your gaffer.
Yeah, Tobias Henriksson.
Okay, Tobias, there you go. I'm not even going to put it to really attend.
Contact number.
Okay, cool. That'd be good, because he did a great job. It's great that you did that. There's a question from Ed Wright from the ACO. Hello, Ed, who asked, what shot or sequence from the series was your favourite, and why? Was there anyone that stood out?
Well, yes, I think it's the. Good question. I think it's the one in episode 1 when we see the firefighter Vasily taking the last step towards the reactor, towards death, so to speak. And before he does that, he looks straight at his wife. So there's a big close-up of him, and then cut to close-up of her, and back to him. And then instead of going towards her left, he goes right. And that was kind of, I mean, that happened in the edit, I guess. That they were not scripted or storyboarded that way. It was something, I think, I'm not sure whose idea it was, or Johan's idea, but I think that was an amazing moment to stay so that long when you're in such a hurry to tell all these stories, and you have to entertain and TV, and you're staying for so long on that close-up. And it's a similar close-up of one of the unknown soldiers, of the young man, who is also a similar close-up of him just being shell-shocked somehow and just going numb.
Yeah, but there's so many. It's a catalogue of those poignant moments, isn't it? The snowflakes on the bridge, and and that running in slow mo. There's so many of those time and time and time again. That's what the emotional strength of those is really, that's why it makes it such a strong piece of work. I think that's it. I think. Oh, I just wanted to just about Johan and blocking and kind of coverage. Just really quickly, how that worked between you two, and him coming from his background. I mean, it's not the only drama hit that he's directed, but that was there an economy in that, because he was making very definite decisions about what he wanted to capture.
I mean, he's done a lot of TV shows before, and done feature films and as well as doing commercial music videos in the very beginning. But no, he's very disciplined and hardworking, and makes a short list. And normally when I do a short list, 9 out of 10 is always you sit with the director making a short list together. But in this case, he's not used to that. I don't know if it's a film school thing. I mean, that you are kind of, but he locked himself in and did a short list, and that short list was something that we worked from, and sometimes we scrapped it, and sometimes we followed it and added things to it. But very well prepared, extremely well prepared with that, but still he created an atmosphere where everyone could be in dialogue with the director, so to speak. It was I think that's great when the director is prepared and have a vision, have a plan, and let people say the wrong thing and say the right thing sometimes also. So and sometimes I did a floor plan based on that short list. I might have done sometimes a floor plan for my own sake and for the AD department and for lights, of course. And that was a big surprise to him. He said, "Oh, I never worked with a floor plan before, but yeah, why not?" Yeah. But we didn't do much storyboarding really. It was more for budgeting maybe sometimes for the storyboards. But yeah.
Well, it sounds like quite the collaboration. And Ricky Gould just said, "Thank you for a wonderful series. So good to hear all the hard work that went into it." So, which is a brilliant way to end it. Jakob Ihre, thank you so much, and congratulations on a genuinely amazing piece of work. It's really something to be proud of, and congratulations on all the well-deserved awards. And good luck with the BAFTAs. It's a done thing as far as I'm concerned. Thank you so much. And thanks for everyone watching, and well, we'll see you next time, hopefully. Take care. Thank you. Cheers, Jakob.